A Napa guy knows not to judge a man by his car's multicolored paint job or absence of modern gadgetry. Who cares if it's technically old enough to vote and the windows are powered by the strength of your left arm? Your monthly payment is zero, and it'll stay that way. Because with over 400,000 parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep anything on the road. She may not be pretty, but she's all yours. That's Napa know-how.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon, folks, and thank you for tuning in to the True Capitalist Radio Show. Of course, this is a new show for the true capitalists out there that understand that the only thing that makes the machinery of this system continue is individuals that invest and inspire creativity, inspire innovation, and understand what's going on around them. Anyway, folks, this is episode number 4. For all the folks that are keeping track, I know that I wasn't on yesterday for Martin Luther the King Day, and I want to apologize for folks, but it was a holiday, and I feel that given the circumstances of our social climate, we have to somewhat throw leniency towards holidays that are going to appease the appetite of the social unrest that's around us. Anyway, push comes to shove, or what I'm trying to say is I wasn't here yesterday for Martin Luther the King Day, and I'm very sorry about that. But anyway, I'm here today. Of course, I'm in my office, so if it sounds like I'm talking from the crapper, I'm actually talking from my office in downtown Austin, Texas. And if you actually hear some construction in the background and some what sounds like construction machinery, whatever the case might be, it's actually developments that are actually taking place around the office building that I'm currently residing in. And that's the price of progress, folks. Anytime I hear construction and machines, that means progress is happening. That means people are coming in and things are popping. There's money is exchanging hands. The idea of trades of goods and services, the whole 9 yards. I love capitalism. I hope you do too. Anyway, folks, I want to hear from you. If you happen to want to chime in on this live broadcast, 646-652-4869 is the number to call here. There's a lot to talk about this late afternoon. I don't know if you people have read the description of this afternoon's broadcast, but it's fairly long, and I didn't mean to write a gosh darn novel about this afternoon's broadcast, but I feel that the things that are listed, and plus a couple of things that aren't listed, are definitely important pertaining to business and capitalist news. So to be honest with you, I really don't know which one to start off with because they're all so intricately important. So anyway, folks, I want to thank you for tuning in with me. Once again, if you have anything that you want to talk about, give me a call, 646-652-4869. If you have any questions, or if you're about to move into some sort of a precarious venture, or if you're going to take a risk, it doesn't hurt to ask advice. The best minds basically accumulate all the suggested ideas and make a judgment call based upon the cumulative facts. So it's not an imbecilic idea to call up and ask for advice here on the True Capitalist Radio Show. And inevitably, what I believe is if there's one capitalist prospering, there's going to be another capitalist prospering, and it'll all pay itself forward, so long as government stays out of overregulation and overtaxation. Before we get into what I wanted to discuss, as according to the description of the broadcast, I want to talk a little bit about some of the business news that has been in and about our lives. If you are somebody who pays attention to the business channels or the business sections of your local news gathering provider. But one thing that has definitely hit the market, and it actually was released yesterday, was the the stepping aside, or should I say, the Steve Jobs health issue. For those of you that aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, Steve Jobs, the chief executive officer at the Apple computers that makes all the iPads and all the iPhones and, you know, all this nonsense that everybody's having a damn circle jerk over. This individual is taking a leave of absence, so to speak, for medical reasons. And as we all know, if we just take a look at the history of Steve Jobs' ailments dating back to 2004 when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which is a tough ailment, I think it's almost unbelievable to see Steve Jobs at this point in time being able to be so vibrant and so intricate in the company of Apple, given the fact that in 2004 he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And of course, everybody's medical issues should be remain private. But when you work for a public company, and you're the chief executive officer, especially someone like Steve Jobs, who not only is just your average chief executive officer who you can just kind of replace with one of the top CEOs on the block with allure and pay and bonuses and perks. Steve Jobs was actually the instrument in orchestrating the technological culture behind Apple's success. This is a man who dedicated his entire life into encompassing selling his electronics beyond the simple product. I don't know, of course, if you're a realist like me, every time you see some pompous-ass jerk with a little iPhone, iPad, or, Mac, and you're lugging around your PC or your, Windows-based laptop, they look at you as if you're, literally trying to peddle them oranges on a street corner. I mean, they're looking at you as if you're substandard technological dog shit, for lack of a better term. Excuse my French, of course. But what encompassed that type of culture, that type of idea that if I buy a Macintosh or if I buy an iBook, or if I buy something from Apple Computer Company, I am incorporated, or I belong to some sort of culture that not too many people, only a certain portion of the market is relating to, and Steve Jobs is intricate in that point. Anyway, the only reason I'm making such a big deal about Steve Jobs' leave of absence for his medical reasons is because the stock took a dip today out here. Not to get into a full story about Apple stock, before the news, or actually the news came out on Martin Luther the King Day. Martin Luther the King Day happens, was yesterday. And, of course, there was no trading happening on the stock market or the stock exchanges for America. But when the news came out, and, there are some stocks traded for Apple on the international exchanges around the world, they took a dive once they heard these the situation with Jobs' leave of absence. But what's good about this is that I believe, and just as the Apple earnings has put out today, the earnings are insanely great. I know that they took, I think they fell about 2% today on the whole medical leave, and luckily it was post they gave people a day to absorb the Steve Jobs leave of absence, because I think it would have tanked. I mean, just imagine the bastards that bought in at 348 and change, and there was trading yesterday, and Apple, was on the exchange, ready to be traded. Steve Jobs releases this information about his leave of absence for medical reasons. I guarantee you the damn thing would have tanked a hell of a lot more, and I thought this was really decent strategy. It still fell 2%. But let me tell you, they had $23 billion in revenue, according to their earnings today. $23 billion. All right. I mean, give me a break. I mean, are you serious? Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. I am corrected. All right. I am corrected. It was $26.74 billion, and a record net quarterly profit of $6 billion. So, it reported record revenue of $26.74 billion, and net quarterly profit of $6 billion. So, they're making some cash. They're making some money out here. And of course, if you're owning Apple stock, and I remember trading stocks back in the 90s, believe me. I was, if you happen to have been trading stocks at the time, I was on that Rambus wave. I bought in at Rambus at $60 and saw it go over 100, and I don't know, I sold off at about 120, but you know what I'm talking about. There were all kinds of opportunities like that, and when the whole technological boom was happening, I remember Apple shares being traded for like $20, $15. I remember when some people considered Apple stock garbage. And it just goes to show you that, you just never know. You just have to understand the companies that you invest in. You have to understand where you have to do your homework, is what I'm saying. You have to do your damn homework. But the reason I brought up the Steve Jobs thing, because I knew that it was going to take a tank. I wanted to do a broadcast yesterday, but there was really no reason to, because there was no trading. But it did fall 2% today. I think it's going to rebound. Unfortunately, the schmucks that bought in at 348 last Friday are going to sell off on that rally of Apple's insanely great earnings. So it's going to be a volatile stock for those of you that have the money to even day trade something at that rate at 340, 330, whatever it's going to be at that particular time. But anyway, we're going to continue on with some of the other business news before I get into some of the things that I wanted to talk about today. Well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and dive into it, because I think that what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit more important than little scholastic news that is just basically time filler. One thing I want to talk about today is that there's a lot of states in America that are vulnerable to be in default on their deficits. As I've told you within the past several broadcasts, Illinois has, and if you haven't heard by now from the mainstream media, they, in the darkness of the night, passed some sort of bill that was going to up the state personal income tax of Illinois up to 66%. And which means it's going to be a serious blow to anybody who happens to live in Illinois, because that's 66% on the state level before you even pay your federal income tax. And, of course, you got Indiana, Wisconsin, the bordering states kind of licking their chops in hopes of having those folks moving the hell out of Illinois and going there and developing some of their markets. And you've got California, of course, not knowing where the hell it's going to have its next pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And, I can go on and on with these states. But what's really draining these states, what's really draining the pocketbook of most states in America is the state worker pensions. Now, for all you folks that have worked your entire lives in the private sector, you wouldn't understand what I'm about to tell you here, because there is no deal that's given to anybody who's working their tail off out there in the private sector. There is no deal like this that is given to somebody who's out there proving who they are, what they are, and what they can do out there in the private sector. But in some of these states, and some of these pensions, you look at how the structure is put in favor of the state worker, which, it's all great. I guess it's, the state worker pans out. But you compare it to the national Joe Schmo in private sector. No one gets this type of deal. And what kind of deal am I talking about, folks? I'm talking about state workers that once they retire, every single year their pension, which is in most cases 80 to 90 to 100% of their entire last year's salary before they retire, they get an 8% raise a year in some of these states that are going bankrupt. Every year they're alive in this pension. Now, let me explain that again, all right? When you retire as a state bureaucrat in some of these states that are failing their asses off like some deadbeat debtor trying to squat in some foreclosed home because, my kids were raised here, baby. Well, these individuals are actually trying to justify, when I mean by these individuals, I'm talking about the state employees. Not only are they trying to justify, but they were paid 8%, an increase of 8% a year for every year they were retired. So if you were a state employee in such and such state that retired at $100,000 a year, well, not only did you get most, if not all, of that $100,000 a year in your pension as a retirement, you're just kicking back out there, basically becoming a shit and piss bag and, turning perfectly good food into crap and watching old episodes of Golden Girls and hee-haw and crap. You're actually getting your whole last year's pay when you retired plus 8% a year. 8% increase a year. Now, who the hell gets this crap? I mean, what kind of deal is this? You get an 8% increase on your pension? I mean, on your retirement? I mean, what kind of deal is this? I mean, sign me up, right? I mean, if I can put aside some odd dollars to some account, and once I retire, I was guaranteed my last year's salary that I retired, and then an increase of 8%. Well, sign me the hell up for that, right? Well, that's what's happening. That's what's draining the pocketbooks of states in America. That's why a lot of these states are becoming, how can I put it, on the verge of default. And let me tell you something, we're talking about not only defaulting on the state level, but on the federal level too. But we'll talk about that another episode, another show. But I'm talking about the states. California, Illinois. These dumbass states that put so much bureaucracy. And not only do they put up so much bureaucracy, they overtax their people in their state. So, they're in over their head. You can't raise taxes anymore because if you do, you're going to be like Illinois, who raises them up about 66%. You're going to run everybody out of the state. Because, you take a look at all these states going bankrupt and take a look at the bureaucracy, there's just too much. There's too much. So how are you going to cut and raise taxes? I mean, that's the only way you're going to get rid of deficits. That's the only way you're going to get rid of debt. You're going to have to raise taxes, and I know that it's a pain to my ear when I hear that. I mean, it makes me literally have hemorrhoids when I hear raising taxes. But you got to raise taxes and cut spending if you really want to get rid of deficits. and properly get rid of deficits. But you look at these states that are on the verge of default, their taxes are so high that they can't raise any taxes anymore. Their bureaucratic output is so much that if they cut, these idiots are going to go ape shit. You know, these morons, once you cut their pensions, once you start, cutting state jobs, once you start cutting state bureaucracy, these idiots are going to start pissing and moaning with their picket signs, and they're going to cause disorder on the streets, and it's going to make the state look like the incompetent bureaucratic bunch of garbage that it is. So these states are in a pickle. These states that are on the verge of default are on a pickle here. So why is Ghost bringing this up on the True Capitalist radio show? Well, I'm telling you why. Because I am going to urge every state that's out there on the verge of default, I am going to give you a little bit of advice, for educational purposes only, but I'm going to give you a little advice to be able to legally get yourself out of these pension obligations to these bureaucratic assholes who did nothing more than some imbecilic, menial bureaucratic job for 30 or 40 years. Then they retired. Once they retire, they get 8% on the last year's salary that they worked for the rest of their life. I mean, I would sign up for that crap. I'm going to get the last year when I retire, that salary, that year's salary that I retire is going to be my salary every year, and I'm going to get an increase of 8%. Sign me up. But that doesn't sound economically feasible in any type of legitimate business model. I mean, it doesn't sound feasible because it's not. That's why these states are on the verge of going default. That's why these states, like Illinois, are raising their state income, personal income, state personal income, not federal, state personal income, 66% in Illinois. You got California that has so much taxes out here, they don't know whether they're coming or going, not to mention they can't cut because these morons in California are so used to being bureaucratic nothings and smoking reefer about 24 hours a day and, getting to their bureaucratic duties when they get to it because it's so bureaucratically ridiculous. But this is why you get some serious situations out here. Now, what am I going to advise the states to do? Well, I'll tell the states what to do. All right? If you're a state person, if you're a state employee that's capitalizing on 8% increases on your freaking pension a year, you better make sure and save your money, invest it properly, because your days are numbered. Your days are numbered. You cannot get away with getting an 8% increase a year on top of your damn pension, which is the last year's salary before you retire. I mean, it doesn't compute in any economic business model, you stupid, unconsiderate morons. Well, anyway, let me explain to the states how you can kind of get rid of this little problem and legally justify it. Because let me tell you, folks, what kind of business model, I mean, the arrangement that the state workers have with the state, I mean, what precedent in past business transaction can one look to where that is similar? Where, state workers, when they retire, they get 80, 90, 100% of their last year's salary, and then an increase of 8% a year until they freaking croak. Can somebody explain what, in what precedent in business transaction or business interaction, where is that precedent set forth? Well, I'll tell you where. unsecured creditors. That's right. These idiots that, give you this little, little credit cards in the mail, and they're like, hey, come on over here and spend with us, and, we want 8% a year or 15 or 20%. We want, all these charges and all this other nonsense that are just completely ridiculous. And let me tell you something, 8% a year increase in state worker pensions yearly is pathetically ridiculous. And if you're a state worker that's going to try to justify this to me, I'd like for you to please give me a call, you milky-licking pieces of bureaucratic nonsense. I'd like for you to give me a call right now, 646-652-4869. All right? But the only business precedent where one gets an increase of 8% a year or something to that effect is in people loaning people money in unsecured debt. So what I think that the states have as an opportunity to absolve themselves of the debt that they have with these old gas bags that are going out here and spending their $100,000 yearly pensions on, casino slot machines and the old gas bags at these ridiculous resorts and all this other crap, and these idiots that are, using it to pay off their new Cadillacs and all this other crap. I think that the states have a legitimate opportunity to absolve themselves of those debts based upon the idea that these pension workers who put into this system with the intention of gaining profit through interest is a business precedent that is, similar, if not just a carbon copy of an unsecured debt. And I think that if you can get the right business and corporate attorneys to fight for the states that are out there, pissing and moaning, trying to raise taxes for these losers that did nothing more than menial labor for about 40 years, and then they want $150,000 a year plus 8% interest a year on that $150,000. I think they need to slap into reality and realize that you just can't, sit there and be paid to be a gas bag. Until you're dying breath, I think you need to be somewhat productive. And if that and I can't tell you the definition of that productivity, but I guarantee you it's not getting, a yearly, $150,000 or $100,000 retirement yearly pay plus 8% interest. I just don't think so. All right. I just don't think so. And if you're going to justify that, if you're one of these bleeding heart milky lickers that are going to sit here and justify that, oh, it's completely fair, dude. It's completely fair because we put into the pension and, we put in there and, we want it to be saved and then after that I want my pay the last year I retire plus 8% interest a year. It just computes. I mean, the math works. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's just horribly disgusting. Anyway, let me go ahead and sip on some of this champagne. And for all you folks that listen to me on a consistent basis, you know that I love champagne. Last episode I was sipping on a bottle of Moet 03, love that. This time a little bit of Tattener 02, love this crap, man. Champagne is the best spirit because it makes you feel like $1 million. It's not like, Billy Carter beer for all you losers out there that are, getting beer drunk and, beating your wives. It's not going to make you feel like, the hard liquor. That's going to make you feel like Superman and, fight about, 4 or 5 cops when they got stun guns on your ass. It's a good spirit, Champagne is a great spirit. I know that there's those of you that are out there that, had children you couldn't afford. There's those of you out there that put yourselves in debts that no honest man can pay, and you're going to piss and moan at everybody else for your own misfortunes. And you're probably never going to ever sip on a decent bottle of champagne. So I just want you to just imagine as I take this sip, how it tastes, and the spirit that it brings you, because it's great. It's unbelievable. That's why you get all these rich people out there in high society popping bottles like they just won a championship game. Because it's a great damn spirit. Here, cheers. Oh, man. Anyway, folks, you're listening to the True Capitalist Radio Show. I'm broadcasting to you from my office in downtown Austin, Texas, where growth is plentiful. The skyline is just growing, and as you can hear in the background, there's a lot of construction going on. And that's just, that just means that there's just growth, economic growth. I love to hear economic growth. I love to hear buildings going up. I love to hear people investing into manufacturing or retail or whatever the case might be. It's great. It's brilliant. This is America. For all you people that are pissing and moaning about, they're coming into my backyard and they're building a store back here. It's not fair. They're getting rid of the deer. They're getting rid of the deer. They used to come to my backyard and eat my acorns and my flowers and all that other crap. They're getting rid of the deer. I mean, who gives a crap, deers are overpopulating the damn country anyway. I hate deer. They're a stupid animal, if you're that concerned about them, we'll cultivate them like cows, and, you idiots can, sit there and have a circle jerk all over them. I mean, who gives a crap? I mean, it's about development. It's about growth. Don't you understand that? We're a growing population, and a lot of this population, believe it or not, I know there's a lot of Americans out here that want to believe that Americans do no wrong and we're the greatest country on the face of the planet. But, folks, let's be honest, we're idiots, all right? We're morons. I mean, we have, a government that was supposed to be made for the people and by the people, and look what the people are doing out here. It's American Idol gone legitimate politic. I mean, it's pathetic. It's sick. I mean, good Lord. I mean, it just makes me sick when you got these morons who can sit here and give you the big smile and tell you what you want to hear. You go out there in mass quantities, elect these morons. They do the complete opposite, and all you do is sit there and tickle your ass. But hey, that's the majority of the American public. That's why I have given up on being a conservative. I've given up on attempting to try to facilitate any kind of political ideals. The only way that anyone's going to make any kind of an impact in America or any emerging market that is potentially coming up in the international community is to gain power and to gain credibility and to gain legitimacy in economics. And once you become legitimate in the economic system of your country, of your market, that's when you can make a personal impact in the political system. That's all there is to it. I know there's people that think that, we are the world, we are the children, and all this crap. I know there's a lot of you idiots that think that you can go out there and, put a couple of tea bags on your head and, look at us, we're, look at old dad, look at old day, and all this other crap. I know there's a bunch of you idiot liberals that think that you can go out and some ridiculous forum in California and read Paul Krugman quotes all night and think that y'all are doing something, but it's not, all right? It's not. That's why I have changed the format of True Conservative Radio to True Capitalist Radio, because I want everybody out there who's in America to understand that we are in dire straits. The math doesn't compute. We have an idiot American mass populace. We've got an idiot American government, and it just doesn't compute. I mean, our government debt is just surpassing what was it, over 65% of the damn GDP, or getting close to over 65% of the GDP. The consumer debt out here is just pathetically ridiculous. It's disgusting. Let me take a sip of this Tattinger here. The effervescence, man, I like it. But seriously, man, there is no way America is going to compete when you got emerging markets out here that are kicking some freaking ass. All right? Anyway, before I get off on that tirade, I just want to end this states absolving themselves of state worker pensions. I think that the states out there, if you happen to be a politician, if you happen to be a governor of one of these states or a state legislature who has some serious pull amongst a lot of your legislative body, I would seriously consider just not even paying any more 8% on pensions, any more pensions, period. These people got way more money than any investor in any stock, in any credit exchange, any loan exchange, anything. These people got way more than they deserve. The state can't do it anymore. There's too many workers. There's too many losers. They're living too old, and it just can't work. It's not working anymore. So instead of hussing and fussing and raising taxes and trying to negotiate with these idiots to lower their pay, and I don't want to lower my pay. I was promised 8% a year on $150,000 a year, and you're gonna pay it until I'm 150,000 years old, you asshole, and that's all there is to it. This is what they're doing. I know it sounds petty, I know it sounds disgusting, but that's what they're doing. And I'm telling the states right now, absolve yourself of this by claiming in a court of law, and I'm not a lawyer or anything, but this is for educational purposes only. I think that the states have a legitimate case putting forth under a corporate judicial body that these state pension workers were unsecured creditors. They were creditors gaining interest on monies that they put forward, just as any creditor out there putting money forward expecting interest on any kind of timely basis. And I think this is a legitimate case for those states out there that are in some serious limbo because of all these pensions. And I know these federal workers, we got some idiot in this chat room that's calling himself Bill Clinton. How convenient. Flapping his fat fingers out here, trying to, spread slanderous lies and libelous statements about me. But the reason he's doing this is he's probably a state worker. He probably took the day off today because he had a hangover, and instead of, his liberal state worker ass celebrating Martin Luther the King Day, he went out to the Ooh La La bar, got, screwed up on, 4 or 5 shots of Grey Goose with a couple of shots of Hornitos. He couldn't wake up this morning, and he had himself a sick day. So, yeah, that's right. State employees can actually use sick days for their hangovers. Yeah, that's great. And he's sitting over here using his little sick day instead of going out there and being productive like these liberal state workers should be doing, being a little liberal state Big Brother employee examples. Instead, he's sitting here tickling his ass crack, flapping his fat Cheeto-stained fingers on the keyboard, thinking that he's approving something in life. You see, this is America, folks. This is what America is. They're actually thinking they're doing something by sitting here and just making everybody's lives miserable. Don't you understand this, folks? This is America. America's not going to be prosperous anymore. All right? And if we're going to be prosperous, we need to start focusing in on education. And we got to realize that this public education system that is educating our children is dumbing down our children. All right? They're dumbing down our children to the point where they're literally pathetic spit-back, knowledge-knowing imbeciles. I mean, there is no critical thinking. There's no creative type of thought processes happening in our youth today. Just look at the way they talk. Why don't you talk to somebody, who's under the age of 30 nowadays? I mean, they look like they're spacey-eyed. I don't know if it's all the Ritalin that their parents shoved down their holes to shut them up from asking for any more toys in the store. But let me tell you, there's a definite difference in what's going on in today's America. And I don't want to think that it's because, these parents drugged up their kids like lab rats run into food pellets. I would like to think that it's our education system and their incompetent way of relaying the material to these children so that they can think about the material that they're being educated towards in some sort of critical or some sort of intellectual, curious way. But that's not happening. It's not going to happen, and that's the only way this country is going to change. We got to do it for the long term. It ain't going to happen overnight. And that's why I'm telling everybody out there who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur in America, you've got 2 years left of legitimate growth. 2 years since this government extended the Bush tax cuts and added on all this other pork and all this other crap. I'm telling you, you got 2 years of paper prosperity because it's all fiat. It's all nonsense. It's not real. But you're going to see growth, just like you saw it this past quarter with Christmas. You're going to see a lot of growth as the quarters keep coming by, but it's based upon losses from the past years since 2008. So when you calculate the losses from 2008, anything that's better than losses is going to be profit. So you're going to have a lot of people investing on false profits in America. And the only way a capitalist can capitalize here in America on that idea is to be able to understand that in 2 years you're going to have to be able to make as much money as you can. And once these Bush tax cuts, basically are going to reset, they're going to be around anymore. I mean, we're going to see federal income tax levels, and I know there's people that think that I'm a hyper-sensationalist when I say this, but I would not be surprised to see federal income tax at 60%, 50%. I mean, we're too much in debt. I mean, we're going to have to cut and raise taxes. So that's why I'm advising folks, I mean, people need to make as much money as they can now and start looking into emerging markets throughout the international community. All right? I kid you not. You need to start looking towards emerging markets throughout the international community so that you can, be able to prosper at least somewhere else instead of sitting here in America in this damn wasteland of disgusting, despicable, sour scowls that are pissing and moaning because they're not the American Idol, or they're not Brad Pitt or some crap. I mean, this is America. All right, and you wait till these state employees finally, realize that they're not going to get their annual stipend of $150,000 plus 8% a year. They're not going to get that anymore. And once that happens, they're going to be a little pissed about it. Just imagine once they start cutting these entitlements and they start cutting all this, these ridiculous tax raping, entitlement based initiatives that were supposed to help the poor in America and are supposed to help all these people. Just imagine once they start cutting that because we have to, because of our deficit. Just imagine. It's just going to be a crazy madhouse in America today, and you've got 2 years until that starts happening. And I strongly advise everybody who's listening, become a capitalist, save your money, and invest it wisely, and invest in a foreign emerging market. And I hate to say that. I love my country, but these people are imbeciles. All right, let's be honest. All right, they're idiots. Anyway, 646-652-4869. We got one angry Jew on line one. Hey, you there?
Well, they've been dumbed down by drinking too much fluoride in the water as well. It's not taught in schools? Entrepreneurism.
I hear that.
They never teach entrepreneurism in school. And why is that?
Well, because it's a state-funded education system. I mean, they want them to become bureaucrats.
That's right. They want them to become good little workers. Well, where's the prosperity been in this country in the last couple of years? In the state sector, not in the private sector, in the public sector.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you look across the board at state employees across the board as compared to those that are in the private sector, I think the discrepancy is like 30 or 40,000 in the private sector, and I think it's something about 110, 120 in the public sector.
I'm glad you said it. Look, I left this country already. I moved out of the country, sold everything, gave it away what I couldn't sell, threw away what I couldn't give away and what I couldn't sell, and I left for Asia. And I'm back here temporarily, but I plan on moving on again. The prosperity is not in this country. The Chinese are kicking our ass all over the planet. One of the things that Americans never do, aside from never leaving the state that they're born in, much less the country, is they certainly don't watch any foreign television. I watched a lot of foreign television, watched a lot of great Chinese television. They got fantastic music, fantastic orchestras. But one of the things they're doing over in China is they have what's called a Silicon Valley, except they don't just have one. They got hundreds. And they are churning out people who are technologically savvy, like you wouldn't believe. Not one Silicon Valley. In fact, their Silicon Valley is 10 times the size of ours, and there are hundreds of them. And they are pumping all the money that they're holding that's ours into those Silicon Valleys, into that technology, into their own people to make them technologically capable. The Chinese are going to rip us a new asshole, and all the people are going to be sitting around America with their thumbs in theirs saying, well, what happened? Because they're not going to know what hit them. And even with everything going on right now, with what you see, the dollar is crapping out, and that's all by design. You're watching everybody standing around, well, I don't invest overseas, and, I don't ever travel anywhere, so I guess I'll be all right. And what's on that sports channel, honey?
Yeah.
That's what we got in this country. Even my own father said the same thing to me, and I said to him, I said, great. I said, tell you what, let's have a little game. Go around the house and tell me what's made in the house, made in America. Call me back. Call me back when you find something.
Nothing is made in America. That's what I keep telling people, that we're a service industry-based economy, and how long is that going to keep us afloat with credit lines? I mean, the credit lines are running dry. The only reason, and that's why I'm telling people on this broadcast, I used to be a conservative political nonsense broadcast, but I've come to the conclusion that the American public sucks. The political system isn't going to change anything. They're the reason why we're in such deficits, so it's not even worth even acknowledging any type of attempt of political change. What we should be doing is obtaining as much economic prosperity as an individual as one possibly can, and being able to go out there on these. I mean, there's plenty of emerging markets in the international community that are not only prospering, but that are potential for long-term growth. That have governments that are secure enough to be able to prevent any of these disgusting displays of violence, because people put themselves in predicaments that they got in over their heads, and they don't know what to do. They realize they're not going to be the American Idol anymore. They're not going to be the Robert De Niro and the Golden Globes and Gervais. They're not going to be these people.
That's all done with. Are you a Drudge supporter? You watch the Drudge Report?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Right
there on the
I
front.
collect all my news gathering through all these particular news outlets, in the internet especially, because that's where the real news is if you really look for it.
Well, the real news, I have always said, is on the day that it happens, is the live coverage. Everything else is bullshit. But if you look on the front of Drudge right now, what you see is a picture of Obama with his head down, that scumbag, bowing and scraping to the president of China. And the headline is, Rise of the Red Dragon, China Shapes the World. Now, why is that a big surprise? All of a sudden, that's a big surprise. Nobody knows? Nobody knew that was coming? Nobody had any inkling. Everybody just thinks, and you know what the thing is? It's the ignorance of the American people that they think that we're so great. That's the problem with Americans, is that Americans think that they still run the world. We think that we're the brain trust, or we're somehow the brain power that runs anything, and these are the people that have never been outside their own home state. When they think of travel, they think it's a trip down to the Jersey Shore.
That's exactly what they think. They think it's a damn Jersey Shore trip or somewhere, maybe 200-300 miles away. Or if they're lucky, their big trip in their life is to Disney World or Vegas or some crap. But one needs to just look around and see that in the international community, there are a lot more metropolises or a lot more countries that are modernizing at a rapid rate than we are here in America. I'm surprised American people aren't, taken back by the fact that we haven't progressed, given the fact this is 2011, at a more rapid rate. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some cities in America that are still growing, but that's because it has a lot of international investment and a lot of multinational investment in those metropolises that are keeping those afloat. You remove those multinational conglomerates once these federal taxes start going up again, and once all this happens and resets in 2 years, those things are going to become war zones. I'm not trying to be a hyper-sensationalist here, but just look at the numbers, look at the facts, look at the people collecting entitlements. I don't know what else to say.
Well, it's not even that we're progressing, we are regressing. We are becoming, and what you see happening in Detroit, that's the thing that people don't understand in this country. They seem to think that when they look at the inner cities, for example, take any big major city, they look at the major city, they're living outside of the city, so they think, it's not my problem, I don't have anything to do with that. But what they see happening in the inner city will be in their neighborhood soon enough. They will be seeing the crime, they will be seeing the unemployment. And in this country, I don't know, I believe, and I'll tell you the reason why I left. I left in 2006. I went to live in Asia because, for one thing,
Asia is a good market.
I really couldn't stand to watch the destruction of my country and watch it firsthand. I really didn't want to see it. And I'm back not by entirely my own choosing. I had situations with my family that necessitated my coming back to the United States, but I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be living here.
Certainly, family first. That's really what's the unfortunate side effect of this whole situation that's unraveling in America. I mean, there's people, and rightfully so. I mean, this was a great country. I mean, it's not like this was some pissing ground or something. This was the bastion of capitalism. And there's people that still believe that somehow we're going to pull through this by some miracle, or something's going to happen, and they don't want to leave here. They don't want to believe that it's just unraveling. I mean, and it's sad, really. It really is sad. But you look at the facts, you look at the deficits on the federal level, the state level. Municipalities are also going bankrupt. You talk about the consumer debt that's out here. You talk about all the corporations that were built here in America now going multinational and building headquarters or potential headquarters off specifically in Asia and Europe. It's disgusting, and I don't understand why nobody else is seeing this except for those of us that used to actually capitalize on this great country, this great capitalist, opportunistic land of opportunity, and I just don't understand why people don't get it.
You're correct, and if you think about it, of all the people that you know, only a few people that you know see what's really happening. And you kind of scratch your head and you wonder to yourself, well, why is that? Why is it that you can talk to your friends, that you can explain to them what's happening, and even after you explain it, they don't get it? Or they will say to you, I just won't believe it. And when they say something like that, take them at their word, because they just won't believe it. And it doesn't matter what you show them, how you show it to them. They're not going to understand because they don't want to. They're still living. I think the term is cognitive dissonance. They know it, but they don't know it. They know what's really happening, but they can't allow themselves to really comprehend it or accept it.
It's pretty disgusting, to be honest with you. It really is sad. I mean, I was a conservative. I'm not trying to bring in politics here, but this is somebody who lived this stupid lifestyle for his whole life. And then, come, mid-2000s, 2008 election, we see people that, people that I knew that were supposedly conservative and stuck by these principles and all this other nonsense, justifying such nonsense, and it seems like everybody took a step back. It seems like we went into some freaking wormhole.
No, we never stepped backwards. I can tell you. Look, I can tell you this. I have studied this stuff for now almost 25, 30 years. I'm 48 years old. I know exactly what's going on in this country. I know who's pulling the strings, and I know why. And all the things that I knew 20 years ago, everybody said, well, you know what, you're just some conspiracy nut. You're an idiot. You don't really understand what's going on in the country. But 20 years ago, I knew it was coming. 20 years ago, we were discussing all this stuff that's happening now. And I had said this on another show earlier today. First of all, most of the people who call themselves conservatives on Blog Talk Radio don't understand what conservatism is. They don't understand the Constitution. They don't even understand that at its most basic level. What they'll tell you is that, well, they're a conservative, but they're not. And they don't understand that a conservative stands by the Constitution, by the rule of law, but we don't do that anymore. What we're doing is we're making up the rules as we go along. Republicans walk towards socialism. Democrats run. Either way you slice it, you are still moving towards socialism. One gets you there quicker than the other.
And, you know, what's really perplexing to me is how are they going to implement socialism when you've got people, I mean, it's deficits galore. I mean, is it going to go to where everybody who invested in America's debt, once America defaults, hopefully it's not March, because it could come a lot quicker if we're not careful.
I'm not trying
to champion more spending here, but I'm not stupid about the implications of defaulting on our credit line here with the international investors. Does that mean that the international investors can just come in and just start taking up properties?
No, and I'll tell you what you look at if you haven't looked at them already. Start studying Iceland. The Icelandic people, if you recall, a year and a half ago, they were the first ones to go. They were the first ones where they're bankrupt, their economy's crap, they're starting to sell off. They're saying, you know, you're going to have to do this, and all the banks closed. Remember that? Remember the British banks
we reported
closed on them?
that on this show. I absolutely remember it.
Okay. Well, the Icelandic people, instead of rolling over like the slaves that most Americans are, the Icelandic people said, you know what? Who the hell got us into this mess? The bankers. And they started issuing arrest warrants for the bankers. The bankers that have absconded to London, living in $4 million flats in the heart of London, scattered all over the world. The ones that were there, they arrested immediately. And they're looking for the rest of them. They got arrest warrants out for the bankers. It's kind of funny that Julian Assange can get arrested for a crime that he hasn't been charged with, and yet the bankers that absconded with the millions and millions of dollars out of the country in Iceland, they can't be extradited. But the Icelandic people have turned around and said, you know what? We don't know you crap. You think you got us into this. We didn't do it. You did it. And, of course, then the bankers turned around and said, well, you know, you're kind of right. Well, you don't know it's exactly whatever, and we'll forgive this and we'll forgive that. You know, all of a sudden these guys are all forgiving people. Look, they are bankrupting countries, one country after the next. Portugal is up on the chopping block.
Spain,
and if you
Italy.
Recall,
yeah.
Spain, that's right. And if you mention to an American, now I have said that one of the countries that I was looking at to go live in, because I speak and write fluent Spanish, was Argentina. A fine country. It's got lots of history. It's got everything that you could think of that a country should have or a big city should have, be able to offer. It's got all the culture that you need. And everybody in America would go, Argentina? Well, who the hell would want to live there? And the idiot Uvis Americanus that they are don't know that Argentina used to be the 7th largest economy in the world until we bankrupted them through the World Bank and through all the tricks that we're doing. The thing is that all the dirty tricks, now it's America's turn. And America is being handed over to these bankers and being handed over by Obama and the rest of them. See, here's my take on Obama. I'll give you an example. I do not believe, and I am not a supporter of Obama in any way, shape, or form. Had he actually done the things that he said he would do, what he promised when he was campaigning, I could have almost supported him, not completely, but somewhat. Now, Obama is not a stupid man. He's not a stupid man. I don't care. Everybody said George Bush was a stupid man. Obama's not a stupid man. And the people who advise him, they are not stupid people. Not all of them. So is it possible that everything that they do could be wrong? Or is it possible that they're doing everything wrong on purpose? Which is more likely?
Well, that's the big, $20 million question there. That's what I've been broadcasting on for the past several years, on whether or not these people are just completely incompetent or if this is a deliberate attempt at just complete devastation.
This is a deliberate attempt at complete devastation. This is the first time I'm hearing you. I've been hearing people say, oh, you got to listen to this guy. He's probably the best guy that's on Blog Talk Radio. Of course, I said I'm probably the best guy that's on Blog Talk Radio, but I've been thrown off of Blog Talk Radio, so now I just go from show to show and cause whatever trouble I can. But you're absolutely correct. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's being done on purpose. It's been outlined. We are being delivered just as everybody in Argentina was delivered over when they used to be the seventh largest economy in the world. And the people will turn around and say, oh, well, we're not Argentina and we're much better than them. Crap. We're going to fall. And when the dollar goes, everybody right now, if you think about it, all these countries that got dollars, think of all these dollars stuffed in the port, and they're all going to have a big sale of dollars. They're kind of pulling away slowly. They don't want to show that they're running from the port, but they're pulling away slowly. They're all moving very slowly. But every day, Drudge has something about the dollar, about the Chinese. And, I mean, look at the symbolism on the Drudge Report right now. This schmuck of a president that we've got bowing so that his head is lower than Zhu Chengtao, whatever his name is.
Certainly,
in China.
And that is a big precedent in that particular community of. It basically makes Hu Jintao the king of Asia.
He is.
Yeah, or the king of the world, basically.
Well, if you're sitting, listen, if you're holding the purse strings, then you tell me, who are you?
Yeah, I agree.
You're the guy running it.
Unbelievable.
Now, look at the picture. In fact, I don't know if you're looking at that, but look at the
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, and look at the symbolism that's being shown to the boobus Americanus who won't understand it. But the symbolism of that picture, in fact, if you want to take it even further, look at you got the little thing with the little ball going in which direction? It's not going toward us. It's going towards China. So you got those little symbols on the top. Everything's moving the China way. Almost the whole picture goes left to right. And you've got the grip of the Chinese guy over idiot schmuck boy, and he's got his head bowed. Now you tell me who's running that show.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up there, One Angry Jew. And as a matter of fact, stay on the line, because I actually am going to go ahead and segue into what we were going to talk about before we even talk about it, is Hu Jintao's visit to America. Now, before he even made the visit to America, he announced on, I guess one of these, I think it was a Wall Street Journal, one of these media outlets, that he believes that the Chinese currency should be the global standard of currency. I know that there's been a lot of people that have been a little apprehensive about a global currency standard or any attempt at any kind of global monetary system. But here you have Hu Jintao, and I'm glad One Angry Jew called up and brought that to our attention on the Drudge Report, looking at that particular picture. And if you folks haven't seen it yet, go to thedrudgereport.com. It says the rise of Red Dragon, China shapes world, and it's very, very interesting and ominous. I'm glad you look at the symbolism of how Obama's basically bowing his head to Hu Jintao. You have the ball on the ring there going towards the east. It's definitely a lot of symbolism is correct. And let me tell you, what boggles my mind is that I've been saying this, folks, for 4 or 5 years already. If you look back in the archives at blogtalkradio.com/ghost, I've been saying this. You know, I've been telling people for a long period of time, and if you look back in the archives, all I get is a bunch of milky-licking jerkasses that are calling me up saying that, I'm just some hyper-sensationalist Alex Jones conspiracy theorist jerk-off or something. But look, just look at common sense. You know, and that's why, screw the whole politics of everything. It's not about politics, it's about economics. And what everybody needs to understand is that the only way that anybody's going to prosper is to be able to prosper individually. This is a global economic system, folks. If you're smart, if you understand that idea, you're going to be able to prosper even when this unfortunate country implodes upon himself. All right? Now, before I get to Bill Clinton, apparently we got Bill Clinton on the line. Obviously not Slick Willie, who turned the Oval Office into the Oral Office, but, some ass-clown liberal that's been flapping his fat Cheeto-stained fingers on the keyboard trying to talk garbage about me on my chat room here. But, I mean, the audacity, of Hu Jintao to say that the Chinese depleted, oversaturated currency should be the monetary standard. And let me tell you, this symbolism on the Drudge Report here that I'm seeing of Obama bowing down to Hu Jintao, this is just not right. And I've been telling people for 5 years that this is the model, you idiot. You understand that this is the model. The China is the biggest risk to American liberty or any liberty there abroad because it shows that any mass populace that is, and I'm not talking about emerging markets with small populations, I'm talking about mass populations, hundreds of millions of people. There can't be liberty. Anybody who's looking at this from an intellectual perspective, you got to think like these individuals, these bureaucrats, that are dictating this idea of government implementation as some sort of authoritarian overlord, where you got to, get body scanned naked and show pictures of your Johnson. You need to get anal probed to make sure that, you're not smuggling anything just to get on a goddamn plane. You got to get a damn piss and blood test to get money from your own bank account. It's just a disgrace. But that's why I'm saying, folks, China is the model to all these bureaucrats that are in Washington today, these damn liberal, disgusting, grow government jerk-offs. Because look at China's development. Look at their economic growth. Look at their technological development like the last caller had just mentioned. They have teleportation technology now, folks. China, teleportation technology. They just tested their first stealth fighter. What are we doing? We're borrowing money from them so that we can pay off these ridiculous entitlements, so that we can pay off state pensions, so we can sit here and wither away in our own debt. It's disgusting. It's a disgrace. And I wish that things were different. I wish that the bastion of capitalism that was America was able to develop some sort of intellectual curiosity as a whole population, but that, didn't happen, did it? Everybody became bloated gas bags that wanted nothing but, free handouts from the government and the least amount of labor as possible. And now where are we at? We've got Barack Obama bowing down to Hu Jintao. And before Hu Jintao came to Washington, he basically said on the Wall Street Journal he wants China to be the global currency of the world. But no, America, it's America, boy. It's America. America's we're going to do it. Shut up. Anyway, I want to hear Bill Clinton over here. Supposedly he's on the horn. Bill Clinton, you there?
Yeah, I hear you, ass clown. How the hell are you?
Yeah, well, what's your point?
Well, what the hell, you ask? I'm listening all goddamn day long. This is Bill Clinton, the 42nd portion, 44th. I did not have sexual relations.
Oh, shut up. You sound like some 40 years worth of booze and smoke ass clown trying to promote his ridiculous dumbass blog talk radio show via coming up on here and acting like an ass clown on my show. I thought you had something informative, but you sound like some shit-kicking hick that got himself a damn a computer from some second-hand crap shop or some damn swap meet somewhere, got himself a free Wi-Fi connection because they're now putting free Wi-Fi connections in the ghetto and the barrio and the trailer parks. And now we got this ass clown coming up on here saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm Bill Clinton." Now, look there, Bill Clinton, or 612, your area code. For you to sit here and talk on this program, you're going to have to discuss actual issues and stop acting like some stupid liberal ass clown trying to agitate the situation. Because we're basically yanking you stupid, power-hungry bureaucrats out of the closet. So if you got something to say it. If not, why don't you go piss off and go whack off to naked pictures of Paul Krugman's asshole. All right? Go tickle your ass while somebody reads, Keynesian economic theory, all right? 612.
Hey, I tell your mother I said hello.
Get him off. Stupid moron. You see, but this is America. Did you hear this, moron? This is an American person that's living in some single-wide trailer park, guzzling down Cheese Whiz, watching an old episode of Hee Haw, thinking that, oh, America, and he thinks he's patriotic because he puts a stupid flag in front of his house and goes watches NASCAR every goddamn weekend. And he thinks he's drinking American beer because he's drinking Budweiser. And these are the type of idiots that are infesting this country, and that's why this country is going to go be flushed down the proverbial toilet. But once again, folks, China is the model, you morons. China is the model to be able to tell mass amounts of populations how to become productive. Because if we leave the masses to their own liberties, it's the side effect is this experiment. America is the basic product of what happens to mass populaces once you give them liberty and you give them opportunity. This is what happens to them. They elect a government that wants to have some bureaucratic rule over them. They want to be able to get so much money every month so that they don't have to do a damn thing for the rest of their life and become complete and utter gas bags, and that's all there is to it. So, you get a lot of bureaucrats in this country that are in power today, an American government, that look towards the Chinese model, that openly praise Mao Zedong as some sort of inspirational leader. You've got these individuals legitimately saying that they, are going to implement government as more of a force within our society. And the reason that they're doing this is they're basing their whole thesis on China's model, you morons. That's why when you had this idiot going apeshit at some at some Safeway in Tucson, you had Clyburn and this asshole Peter King and all these other stupid Congress people and senators and all these dumb bureaucrats trying to implement authoritarian rule, trying to curb the First Amendment. I mean, don't you understand, folks? This is incremental authoritarianism because you idiots are just sitting back saying, I just want to watch American Idol. That's all I want to do. I want to watch American Idol, and I want to be able to go out and drink beer and watch the ball game. And all. Just shut up, all right, man? God damn it. I mean, what happened to this country, man? We got Hu Jintao coming to the country. It's just kind of like a subtle thing on the mainstream media, and lo and behold, we got this idiot bowing down, our president, the man that's supposed to be the leader of the free world, bowing down to Hu Jintao, basically making this bureaucratic chairman imbecile the leader of now, not only, it's not our free world anymore, this is the Mao Zedong world, you morons. People are idiots, you know? Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that tirade, but what I'd like to tell people is to be able to realize 2 years left on this inflated credit-based fiat growth that we're going to have here for the next 2 years. You've got 2 years to accumulate as much wealth as you possibly can. And once you do, you need to get the hell out of here. And I'm not trying to be some hyper-sensationalist jerk nut, but I'm serious. You have to realize that this is not some, Mickey Mouse garbage that I'm sitting here trying to convey to you on this internet, all right? I'm trying to tell you that this is all you got. 2 more years. And once you accumulate your money, you better invest in an emerging market that's safe and secure and that can keep your investments legitimate without some damn Fidel Castro guerrilla force coming down from some mountains and nationalizing everything you invested in. You know? Let's be honest. But I think it's very dangerous what we're seeing here with China's visit to this country. China's visit to this country proves that America has to bow down based upon the amount of deficits that we have. I mean, why do you think that we're having this little conversation with China? What do you think these idiots are talking about, you know? What do you think these idiots are talking about out there in this little visit? They're talking about China's new position in the global economy. That's what they're talking about. I mean, China is so brazen that they want to be the global economic standard for monetary policy. And I'm surprised that no American person is even giving a crap. I'm glad to hear one angry Jew calling up and saying that he understands what's going on here in America, and he went out there and invested in Asian markets. There's a variety, a whole bunch of different markets throughout the international community. Asia's not the only one, but it does have the most growth. But there are a lot of emerging markets out there. Do your homework and realize that America's not going to be the great, safe place it is. You're going to see a lot more crime once these state workers get their pensions lifted from them, once these entitlements get taken away from these idiots that are used to just sitting on their fat asses and singing welfare carols like, it's the first of the month, wake up, wake up, wake up, it's the first of the month. I mean, that's enough. But anyway, enough of China. We know we're in debt. Basically our president symbolically showed to us that we're just their bitch. And hopefully you idiot morons in America realize that we're not the bastions of capitalism anymore. We're the bastards. So sit there and shut your mouth and eat with your chopsticks, you bastard. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is this ex-Swiss banker named Elmer or something or other. This moron has decided that he has had enough with all the global tax evaders throughout the international community, and he has hooked up with Julian Assange, man from WikiLeaks, who is known for, at least most known globally, for leaking the U.S. Embassy cables that has become such, a hotly debated issue in international and especially American politics. But apparently this ex-Swiss banker Elmer is going to name names and name accounts and how much they got in those accounts of wealthy business people and lawmakers throughout the international community. And apparently the transaction has already went down. This ex-Swiss banker named Elmer has already exchanged the information with Julian Assange, and apparently at some point in time they're going to release these particular documents implicating those tax evaders, including lawmakers that are implementing these taxations. Now, I don't know. I mean, in my personal opinion, if I were Julian Assange and this ex-Swiss banker Elmer, I'd watch my ass. All right? I mean, seriously. Not only are you messing around with high-end bigwigs in the private sector, I mean, if you're going to implement lawmakers that are going to, be proven, a student of the Hippocratic Oath, well then, it's going to damage a lot of people. It's going to cause a lot of destruction to one's character, to one's public image, and on top of which they could be legally liable for all the tax evading that they have put in this Swiss bank account. I think it's, somewhere between a little bit ballsy and a little bit crazy for Assange and this ex-Swiss banker to come out with, or potentially come out with this particular information about folks. So for all you individuals out there that have, Swiss bank accounts that thought that they were just going to be untouchable, and you've been, evading for the past 25, 30 years, I guarantee you something's going to happen, and, for this ex-Swiss banker to come out of his woodwork and to give this information to Assange, and Assange potentially releasing it. I think that, I think everybody has a thing to worry about. I mean, I wouldn't want to be one of them businessmen that got about $20 million in a damn Swiss bank account that I was evading from some odd government, and lo and behold, some stupid asshole out there at the Swiss bank decides that, oh, you know what, I have a conscience now. I've got a conscience, and I don't want these tax evaders to continue to shelter their money, and I know, and I'm naming names. And lo and behold, you got this ex-Swiss banker, Elmer, hooking up with Julian Assange, WikiLeaks Man of the Year over here. They're going to potentially list some names, and I can't wait to see them, really, to be honest with you. I mean, I think it's dangerous for these ass clowns to be so brazen with this loose information, but inevitably, I think it could cause some fun stuff to happen on the international front. So we'll await to see if WikiLeaks actually comes through, and if Elmer actually comes through with these accounts, and if it implicates any American lawmakers, if it implicates any American business folk. I think the potential for people to get damaged from this is really, really high, So, anyway, let me tell you something right now, folks. There's a lot of things happening in business. All right, we've talked about a lot of things today. We've talked a lot about how the American states that are in high deficits because of state pensions can absolve themselves of those state pensions by going to a court of law and claiming that these folks that were collecting pensions with interest rates that were annual are unsecured creditors. They're unsecured creditors, and basically all the state has to do is go bankrupt and not pay these idiots anymore. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to pay these folks anymore. And then we went on and we talked about how Hu Jintao made a visit out here to America. We've got on the cover of the drudgereport.com, we've got Obama bowing down to Hu Jintao, basically transferring global power from America to China at this point in time. And what's really unfortunate is why isn't anybody, all right? Why isn't anybody talking about this particular subject matter? I mean, I wanted to talk about Hu Jintao's blatant statements of the Wall Street Journal yesterday, but I was celebrating Martin Luther the King Day, because I have to celebrate Martin Luther the King Day. But now to see Hu Jintao shaking hands with our president, and our president bowing down as if, he's just, okay, yeah, please, yeah, thank you, sir, may I have another? Thank you, sir, may I have another? That type of bowing down. It's on the Drudge Report. Go right now and check it out. It just proves and validates everything that I've said throughout the 4-5 years I've been on the air, okay? And for you folks that are, trying to discredit my validity and my legitimacy in making these prognostications, I challenge you to go to blogtalkradio.com/ghost and take a look at all the archives. They're timed, dated, and stamped, and I prognosticated all this nonsense, but, take a look at the telephone calls that I was getting at the time, huh? Take a look at how many people that were calling up and trying to be, jerky boys, and trying to be, hey, look at me, I'm making a prank call, and I'm gonna tell my girl on the other side of the world that I finger bang over the chat room to listen in to the True Conservative Radio Show, so I can make a prank call and look great. Yay! And that's basically what my show consisted of for the longest time. And it's a shame to see that capitalism, as we know it in America, it's gone. And I know there's ass clowns out there, beating their chests, trying to say, hey, this is America, boy. This is America. Yeah, so what? I mean, have you seen these ass clowns? I mean, have you taken a walk in a shopping mall? Have you taken a walk in a grocery store especially? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. I mean, it just, I don't even know what to say, man. I don't even know what to say. In America today, what's really sad is that there's an excuse out here in America that, I don't know if we're supposed to give a crap about or whatever the case might be, but anytime somebody comes up and, tries to ask me for a favor or tries to ask me for some sort of money or anything, it's always my kids. It's like, the neighbor comes over, wants me to, help her move something or other. I'm just new to the building here, I got myself a badass condo in Austin, Texas, and, she's moving out or something. I'm supposed to, because I'm the neighbor, I'm a man, I'm supposed to help this bimbo, and I'm like, well, no, I can't, I'm doing something, and, of course, what do I get? The proverbial, my kids, but my kids, you're not understanding, my kids. Fuck your kids, all right? I'm sorry, folks. I didn't mean to be so vulgar and so disgraceful, but, fuck your kids, all right? I mean, let's be honest. Most of you people that are out here having kids, you're irresponsible fiscally and socially anyway. All right? I mean, what is it, 60-something% now of divorces now in America? I mean, the majority of families are now single-parent families. We got broken families everywhere. We got. Look at Octomom, for instance. This is the epitome of woman liberation, isn't it, folks? Octomom over here shits out, 16 children. All right. And let's be honest. I mean, she wouldn't have naturally shitted out 16 children, but no, we live in America where, if a woman, I don't know, I guess has enough state-funded money and has the liberty to be able to go to some damn scientist's office so she can get a damn turkey baster shoved up her meat wallet and get artificially inseminated with these damn 16 kids. And now that she has these kids to raise, she's on these stupid shows saying, I can't have no money. I can't pay my house note. I can't feed my kids. I can't feed my kids. I mean, I'm sick and tired of hearing that. I mean, you just don't understand that. You just don't get it. I don't know if you get it, but I just can't stand it. I mean, and you see, if you try to, be realist about it and say, hey, look, you have to be responsible for your own kids, you stupid numbnuts. All of a sudden, they look at you cross-eyed like you just, kicked them in the pooper or something. Like you just asked them to, drink their pee or some crap. Like, oh my God, you want me to take care of my kids? Oh, no way. And this is America. This is why we suck, man. We suck, and I wish we were a lot better. I mean, there were so many opportunities out here that are now being taken advantage by those that are coming to this country, the immigrants. I mean, there were so many things to do. We had so many liberties, and yet, we just let it go by the wayside because we were too enthralled with watching, Charles in charge and, Urkel, we were too enthralled with watching, Brett Favre, and, the American Idol. I mean, it's stupid, We turn our brains off. We're just completely ridiculous, man. Have you ever talked to anybody, I mean, really, the general American public? Haven't you noticed, and I've been saying this time and time again, most of these morons turn their learning capacities off at about, 16, 18, something like that. They just completely turn their learning capacities off, and they stay with the same vernacular that they've had since they were 18. Here they are 60-something years old, and they're talking like the same way they did when they were 18. I mean, this is what's wrong with America. We're on autopilot. We think that we can just kind of get a job and just kind of, sit back and like these damn bureaucrats on the state level, and once you retire, you're going to get $150,000 a year plus 8% interest every year. I mean, it's a disgrace. It's an utter disgrace. And that's why I'm hoping that those of you that are listening to the True Capitalist broadcast are going to go out there and utilize some of the advice that I give, some of the insight that I give, to go out there and be capitalists. There's still money to be made out there, you ass clowns. There's still money to be made. But you have to understand, you can't go out, and once you make the money, you can't go out and buy a $500 electronical Chinese-made widget that was probably bought on the wholesale market for $10. All right, you stupid morons. You can't do those types of things. You can't go out and buy $2,000-$3,000 75-inch plasma screens when you're living in some one-bedroom shitter that Section 8 housing uses as an outlet. Do you understand? You can't do these things, you moron. You can't go out and blow, or get not an unsecured, but a secured loan for some $45,000 Cadillac when the first two steps in front of your goddamn doorstep are broke off. You understand, or you're still living at your damn mommy's house? You can't do this. This is what has completely crippled America into the depraved debt hole, disgusting, pathetic version of itself that it is today. It's a disgrace. Anyway, I've been telling people how to make some cash. I mean, for the past couple of shows, I taught people how to make some cash with some champagne and some wine. Very easy. Artwork, very easy. All right? Now, let's talk a little bit about how you can manage your money. Let's talk a little bit about all these ass clowns that are so eager to go out and get all these dumb credit cards that are mailed to you at interest rates that are pathetic, all right? But you go out and you activate them, and you go out and you go to the Ooh La La bar, and you go get your stupid Abercrombie Fitch fruity clothes, and you go out and you do all this crap. Well, you idiots have to realize that credit was not made for that, you stupid buffoons, all right? Credit was made so that one can obtain a certain product or service while being able to maintain the crux of their capital, you idiots. All right, now what does that mean? That means that everything that I work for, let's say I'm a regular schmuck and I've got 2 jobs and, I'm working my tail off and I'm making $800 a week, all right? Or, you know what, screw it. Let's say I'm making $3,000 a month, okay? I'm making $3,000 a month. Well, instead of going out there and blowing all your $3,000 like some stupid imbecile that thinks he's Birdman and buying bimbos at the bar, $8 margaritas and, top shelf Mai Tais or going to the strip club and shoving a 20 up some bitch's asshole or any of this other crap, you should be saving that capital. And if anything, you should be utilizing the credit that is available to you, all the extended credit lines that are available to you. You should be maintaining your sustenance on a level of responsibility on some of these credit lines that are accorded to you. So meanwhile, you're paying... remember, you got to keep your outgoing expenses low, too, you ass clown. You can't go out and, spend money on this and that. For all you women, you can't get your nails done every week. You can't get your hair did. You can't do all this crap. You got to make some responsible fiscal choices. But if you can make your sustenance outgoing expenses as low as you possibly can, you can utilize these open credit lines to pay 70, 80, 90% of that. And all your capital you can put in the freaking bank, you freaking morons. And once you put it in the bank, once you, all the $3,000 a month, you're going to put at least $2,500 a month of that. Because, you're utilizing your credit lines to pay your sustenance. Remember, you're saving your capital. Well, once you save enough of your capital, okay, and this is for schmucks that aren't entrepreneurs, okay, this is for people that just want to live. They don't have business savvy. They just want to live, but they want to live easier. And let me tell you, you have your right to do that. Let's say after about 2 years, after you save, anywhere from $2,300 to $2,500 a month, if possible, by utilizing your open credit lines to maintain your sustenance, after about 2 or 3 years, you're going to have some serious money. You're going to have some serious money in that bank, and that's when you can go up to that bank and say, I want a loan. I want a loan, and you can get a loan to basically not only pay off all the sustenance that you outputted in your credit lines, all the unsecured debt that you used to pay your living expenses for 2 or 3 years while you saved your capital, you can take all that out in that personal loan and maintain your sustenance for the next 2 or 3 years later with that same loan. So what am I saying, folks? What am I saying to you? Let's take it step by step, because I know finances are very complicated for people. You're a schmuck that makes some odd dollars a year. You get credit cards and credit lines. You utilize these credit cards and credit lines to maintain your sustenance, but make sure that your sustenance is not something overly extravagant. Remember, you're saving cash, you idiot. You can't go out and think that you're bigger than you are, all right? You got to wait on that. So you maintain your sustenance. You pay, if you can pay your rent on your card, or if you can pay, electricity, water. I don't know about, your phone, your cell phone. You need a cell phone anyway. It's $30 a month at one of these fly-by-night Pocket or Cricket phone carriers anyway. You don't need cable, you morons. All you need is an internet connection, and that's about $20. And, you're all right. You pay that for about 2 or 3 years while paying, if not the minimum, at least a little bit over the minimum of your payments on these cards, while maintaining all the money you're making from your job. You're saving it in the bank. It's not floating away. The credit is there so that you can save your money. So after about 2 or 3 years of saving your money and utilizing the credit cards to pay the rent and pay the light and the water and all the other expenses and food and stuff, and that means you have to cook too, ass clown. You can't go out and think that you can, eat at Outback Steakhouse every day. All right, you're going to have to learn how to cook. You have an internet connection. Remember, look up a freaking recipe and cook something. It's cheaper, it's easy, and it'll save you a lot of money. You maintain this sustenance on your credit for 2 or 3 years. You save all the money you make from your job, all the cash, the check that you make from your job. You save it in your bank. You give it about 2 or 3 years. You go to your bank. You say, I want a loan, and I'm going to utilize this as collateral. The bank will give you a tremendous amount more than what you have in your bank. They'll give you a tremendous amount more. Because you have money, you idiot. You have money in your bank account. You can put it up as collateral. That's when the bank will talk to you. The bank will be your friend. The bank makes money on utilizing your capital as collateral to lend to other people, you idiot. So you get a loan, and you make sure you get a good loan at a good interest rate that's way lower than all the unsecured creditors that you've been using for the past couple of years. You make sure that you get enough loan so that you can pay off your expenses for the next 3 years of your life. Oh, yeah. You can get a loan that not only can pay off all the creditors that all the debt that you've incurred through unsecured debt by maintaining your subsistence while saving for 3 years, but you can also get a loan or, extend that loan to 3 years of your future expenses. So what does that mean? You've consolidated all of your bills. You've paid off the credit cards. You have, 3 years of expenses saved up because it was lent to you. And what's the only bill you have? You only have one loan bill. One loan bill for about, 30, 40, 50,000, And you could pay a $30 or $40, $50,000 loan bill in like 5 years, or even sooner, because you're going to save the credit, because you're not going to have all these expenses going out, because with the loan that you took out with the bank, it's going to pay next 3 years' expenses, so you're going to be able to save for 3 years. And you're going to have a monthly expense of something like, at the most, $200. At the most, $250, depending on your interest rate. So what are you doing, folks? Without even knowing any business savvy, without even knowing how to invest, without even knowing how to play the stock market, you utilize these financial instruments to your advantage. If you're new to the credit game, well, by God, use it to your advantage. Get a job, work 2 jobs. Save that money in the bank, you idiot. Save that money in the bank and utilize the unsecured debt to pay your bills. And make sure your bills are not outstanding, you idiot. Don't go out to Outback. Don't go to Abercrombie Fitch for your clothes. Don't get a $200, $300 cable bill. Don't go out there and get some rent that's going to take about 50% of your paycheck. Don't do this crap. Fiscal responsibility. Then you utilize the unsecured credit instruments. You save your capital. You get a loan, pay off the unsecured credit instruments, and then the loan, hopefully you can negotiate a pretty decent loan to extend into 2 or 3 years of future sustenance. And meanwhile, for the next 2 or 3 years, while this loan pays off all your bills for the next 2 or 3 years, you're saving all of your money. You're saving all of your capital every single month. And the only credit obligation, the only financial obligation that you're going to have is that one monthly payment. That one monthly payment for the loan. And everything else is going to be, and you know what you do, folks? Just to give you some more advice. While you have that loan paying for your next 3 years of your life, and while you're saving your bank or your check for the next 3 years, because you're not going to have any bills because, the loan's paying it off. You take all that money that you're saving, you put it in another account. You put it in another bank. And you start gaining credibility with another bank. And before you know it, they're going to want to lend you some money. But don't get irresponsible, but this is how you build yourself. This is how you build yourself in wealth-wise. And this is how you get yourself the big house. This is how you get yourself the big car. You understand? You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You just have to know what to do with your money. Anyway, folks, I hope that you take that into consideration, because inevitably, folks, we need more people that are fiscally responsible and understand how to that know how to use these financial instruments to their advantage. And once they save enough capital, well, by God, you need to go and look at these emerging markets in the international community, because your dollar will go a lot farther if you exchange those things, if you exchange the rates at a certain rate, or if you have other assets like stock that aren't going to deplete like currency or bonds or anything like that. You can transfer them to your potential emerging market, and it'll go a lot farther. You'll get a lot bigger pieces of real estate. You'll be able to open up businesses without so much regulation, without so much competition. You'll be able to make businesses that haven't been played out in markets like America. It's beautiful. So by God, folks, I hope that you're listening. And I hope that you utilize some of these financial capitalist tools that I'm relaying to you to go out and make yourself a better life. Because if you don't, you have nobody else to blame but yourself. You need to look at yourself in your beady eyes in the mirror and realize that all the problems and all the deficits and all the ridiculousness, it's all your fault. Anyway, folks, I'm getting out of here. Until tomorrow, long live the capitalist movement.
A Napa guy knows the only way you'd give a freshly minted driver a brand new car is if he promises to never drive it. Instead, let him grind the gears and knock over the neighbor's mailbox in something a little more suited to his skill level. And with over 400,000 parts and a little Napa know-how, he can safely drive something that's nearly as old as he is. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for him. That's Napa know-how.